Welcome back, everyone, as we continue with the MSG 150 at home. And look who it is. Joining Monica, Allen, and myself, David Diehl, former Giants lineman, also part of our Giants coverage here on MSG Network. David, thanks so much for joining us. I got to ask you, the draft is often a random process, even with all the intel and all the scouting and all the pre-draft physicals. Will it be any less random now, or will it have any impact with so much less intel this time around?
Well, obviously the draft is impacted, and I think it's more impacted towards some of those players like Tua, who's coming off of an injury. Yes, we see the videos. Yes, we know that they've had physicals during the combine, and they've had their own specific doctors touching with them and giving those reports out to different NFL teams. But that's where I think the really difficult part for the NFL teams is you want to have your independent doctors and staff reach out on the player. You want them to physically touch them and see where they are. But for me, I actually love that the draft is this way. Unfortunately for us, I don't love, obviously, the coronavirus and the seriousness of the pandemic and where we're at as a society. But I actually love what it's done for the NFL Combine, for the NFL Draft, specifically with offensive linemen. When you look at the drafts from basically 2007, probably I would say up to 2017, when it came to the offensive linemen, everybody was enamored with 40 times and numbers and those combine things that don't always reflect themselves on watching film and game tape of NFL prospects, especially when offensive linemen are that type of guys coming up. Think about Orlando Brown 3 years ago coming out of Oklahoma. He was one of the best offensive tackles in the draft, but everybody was so concerned with his combine 40 number that he drifted and fell to the second round. And then we have guys like Mika Becton, who are monsters, massive offensive tackles, that he ran a good time for his size. But I think now all those scouts and all those general managers are relying on their eyes and relying on film the way the draft should be, and so much more on potential and what you see, not so much enamored with just the numbers that you get from a combine, because we know that you don't bench a 225 when you're standing at the 40-yard line in the middle of an NFL game.
Mm-hmm. Those numbers certainly sometimes can be misleading. All right, well, free agency is a little bit of a different beast. You've got guys that have a body of work that you can look at and kind of see and project where they'll fit with your team. What have been your thoughts in terms of free agency so far, David?
Well, obviously, when it come to free agency and where we're at now, a lot of it came with familiarity. You think about a lot of these coaches that have already established their schemes offensively and defensively. If they're going into their second or third year, they're light speeds ahead of some of these NFL teams that have new head coaches that haven't been able to have their off-season programs to really get those installed going. So I think that's an advantage for teams that are already set up and in place, that they do have that experience, that they already have had training camps and OTAs and all those mini camps that they needed to now go into their second year. But now for teams like the New York Giants or the Carolina Panthers, they haven't installed their offense fully. They haven't gotten to get in front of their team and in front of their future 2020 NFL team. So when it comes to NFL prospects and when it came to free agency, Robbie Anderson was a player who played at Temple under Matt Rule. That's a clear fit. Joe Brady bringing in Teddy Bridgewater to Carolina. He had him in New Orleans. He knows the system and verbiage. So I think a lot when it came down to free agency came a lot to familiarity with coaches and how they know these players. Look at the Giants, who they picked up in free agency. Cam Fleming was part of the Dallas Cowboys staff that's now in the Giants, as well as the New England Patriots. Blake Martinez and Frackwell, the two linebackers in Green Bay that are now come to the Giants. Robert Graham, the defensive coordinator of the Giants, was their linebacker coach 2 years ago. So I think that's what you've seen through free agency is coaches knowing exactly what they're getting out of the players because they've spent time with them, and veteran players who know that system. So the minute that once this offseason does start, that they're going to have their imprint on the organization.
David, if we're going to talk free agency, I have to ask you what you think of Tom Brady leaving the Patriots. Me as a Jets fan loves it. And going to Tampa. A bit of a big surprise as far as where he chose to go. But what do you think of the move, the fit, and what it means now for the Patriots?
Well, obviously, anybody who's been sitting in the AFC East for 20 past seasons, they're all excited because now finally Tom Brady's out and you have a chance to win that division. So it's pretty much up for grabs right now for Buffalo, Miami, and for the rest of this group. So I think the Jets are very excited, and you see them doing their way through the offensive line, knowing that they need to upgrade in that area in order to get Sam Darnold up and rolling. But when it came to Tom Brady and when it comes to some of the decisions the Patriots make, I mean, is it really that surprising anymore? We know that Bill Belichick and this organization has a number on each and every one of those players, regardless of if you're the greatest of all time or you're number 51 out of 53 on that roster. So I really think when it came to Tom Brady and the Patriots, I'm guessing their number of what they did offer him was around 18 to 20 million, knowing that, hey, we're going to give you this offer. You can go out to free agency and do what you want, but we're the Patriots. We're Robert Kraft. We'll see if you come back to it. I think for Tom Brady, I think this is an opportunity for him to, number one, show what he's capable of doing in an offense that he actually has input on. You know, figure all those times under Josh McDaniels, you know, a lot of times, well, he's going for the easy throw, the check down. Now with Bruce Arians, what does he always say? No risk it, no biscuit. He's going to want to throw the football downfield vertically, and Tom is going to have his fingerprint on it with a plethora of wide receivers and weapons on the outside that he hasn't had in New England in a long time. So I think that the fit is there. Obviously, it's going to be exciting to watch the NFC South when we're sitting here watching Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees all competing up against each other. But I do think for this point in his career, he wanted the challenge. He wanted that ability to say, I can win football games on my own, and he went with it. And to go back to Bill Belichick and the Patriot way, this isn't the first time they've done it. Mike Vrabel ended his career with the Kansas City Chiefs. Willie McGinnis with the Browns. Think about 5-6 years ago when they traded Logan Mankins in training camp at guard, who was an all-pro at that time. He ended up playing.
Dave, this is the quarterback position now. This is the quarterback position. Who they got behind Brady?
I understand completely where you're coming from, but once again, look who we're talking about. We're talking about the mad scientist Bill Belichick, and he doesn't do things by the norm. And with that Patriot way, it's not what you can't do, it's what you can do well, and we're just going to put you in that position to succeed and get it done.
Okay, I got this real quick, though, Dave. Everybody expects Belichick to be the mad scientist like you're talking about. Patriots are probably going to be fine. But what does success for Tom Brady now look like? Like, what are we expecting the Buccaneers to do? And we'll be like, okay, Tom Brady solidifies his status as the GOAT in this new location.
And that's where I think more pressure is on Tom Brady, because for Bill Belichick and for the Patriots organization, they could sit there and say, well, we just let one of the greatest of all time go. It's going to take a year or two to catch up for us to get back to those winning ways. Now, when you talk about Tom Brady, he has no excuses. He has Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard at the tight end position. He's got Godwin. He's got Mike Evans. He's got an offensive line that they're building around him now. So I honestly think the pressure is going to be on Tom Brady to get the job done more than it is Bill Belichick, because now Tom Brady's not going to have any excuses with the surroundings he has around him.
Are we talking Super Bowl or bust then? Or what are we saying?
I would say within the next 2 years, if Tom Brady doesn't make it to the Super Bowl and they don't make that big push for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, anybody's going to consider that a bust.